Thank you very much. And I can certainly identify with Peter as not standing here as an expert on sustainability. But what I can tell you today is that the federal government through the ARC is very supportive of academic-industry relationships. And the schemes that we have do support the effective research into many areas, including sustainability, as is quite clear here today. Okay, look, it's really important to understand the economic environment in terms of grants when you do look for money to fund research. So that's why I've put this graph up there, so that you can get some idea of what the annual budget for research is in Australia, and you can see where the sources of research are, or research funding are. These are the federal government departments. And you can see the different size. This is the size of the dot is the size of the money that goes into that department. It is not research money. I think I have to move this twice, do I? Yep, there we go. The little red dots are the ones, they're the size of the pots of research money that are going into Australian research on an annual basis. You can see, I think there's probably a pointer on here. Department of Education is where the ARC sits, and this little red dot here is money that goes into research which does not come through the ARC but goes into universities through block funding. This is the ARC here, and hanging off the Department of Health, similarly the NHMRC and the CSIRO, ANSTO, DSTO sit here under Department of Industry. So you can see that the total amount of little red dots is not huge. But I think that I can show you in the next slide that the big amount of money available for research funding is in the tax incentives. So I'm always suggesting to academics that the NHMRC, the ARC, very highly competitive, very small slice of the pie. The biggest slice of the pie is working with you guys, working with industry. And there's many other benefits to doing that as well. But that's where the money is. Follow the money. Oh, that one moves both of them. Okay, so this is an interesting one. This is an OECD graph, or from OECD data, showing all the different countries along the x-axis at the bottom. And you can see that the number of researchers employed in different sectors in the world are very different at the left-hand end. And that's sort of where you would like to be, seeing that the researchers are working deeply within industry, making a big difference. You have to travel a long way to the right to find Australia. We have not historically been good in putting our researchers into industry or encouraging academics and industry to work closely together at that level. I was told when I worked at university by industry people that if they took an engineer graduate, it took them 3 years to make them workable in an industry. I heard another number two days ago that in America they take postgraduate, PhD graduates. It takes them 4 years to get them ready to work with industry. But I hope that we can improve on that. And through our linkage schemes, I hope that we can actually encourage that. For those of you who are not familiar with the ARC, and that would be the non-university people in the room, we do divide our money roughly in half, and half goes into our discovery programs, which are very blue sky, curiosity-driven, academic-driven research. But the small half, goes into collaborative projects. All of those programs are there because we drive collaboration through those programs. The Centres of Excellence, which will go live today, is our biggest jewel in our crown, not our crime. Everybody asks why is it sitting under linkage, because mostly it does blue sky research, but it collaborates heavily, collaborates with other universities, collaborates with industry, collaborates with government and international players. But the scheme that I really want to tell you about today is the Industrial Transformation Research Program, which is that small blue square in the middle. It is a newish scheme. It's only been running since 2012. It is specifically designed to provide money into universities for them to work with industry. There we go. We also invest in our individuals. So the Australian Laureate Fellowships are our highest level of fellowship. And in recognition of the work that Fiona has done, Fiona has been awarded these Laureate Fellowships, which we hold in very high esteem and are for our stellar researchers. So Fiona has also more recently become the new director of the Research Hub for Sustainable Research in Green Manufacturing. So the ARC thinks Fiona's doing a very good job and leading the way, and we hope that there will be many more Fionas. Okay, a little bit about this program. So looking at international collaboration on ARC-funded projects, because this is not a local problem, sustainability, or many of our other problems, and working with academics, with industry, is not a local problem entirely. So it's very important that we do support international collaboration. And while we don't have a specific international scheme, we do encourage international interactions for our academics to work across the globe through all of our schemes. And you can see from this graph, over time, it's been a fairly steady interaction where our academics embrace the fact that they are isolated and a long way from anywhere and go to great lengths to make sure that they're well engaged with the globe and the cutting edge research going on around the world to ensure that in fact our own research happening here in Australia is not only cutting edge but pushing beyond. Linkages between academia and industry don't happen wrong. This just shows you over the last few years the Linkage Project, which is one of our smaller schemes that's been going for a very long time. A very popular scheme because it really does enable academics and industry to work together, to get to know each other, to build relationships and then go on to bigger schemes. So you can see this is a linkage map just of the University of New South Wales and how they have engaged with industry, with other universities and with government through the linkage program. And you can see it's a very extensive spider work there. The yellow is almost important to read, almost impossible to read, I'm afraid, but that's higher education. So that's why University of New South Wales in the middle is yellow. Government is green, and you can see that there's a very heavy leaning of green on that graph. So linkage projects do tend to be quite highly utilised by academics to work with government departments and agencies. So the industry, the real industry and business are the red dots. And even though there may be more green, you can see that there's a very large number of red dots there as well. So the working with the real industry is quite substantial. And non-profit and other organisations in blue. So it just gives you some idea that actually academics do work with industry quite extensively and have done for many years. These are the linkages across the country. Way too many to really fit on a slide, but you get the idea from that spattering of dots of all colours that this funding scheme, which is very popular and actually has a high success rate, which makes it popular with industry, has been very successful in driving these collaborations, many of which, when the money runs out after 3 years, go on and either go for another grant of the same size or develop into something larger like an industrial transformation hub, or over the years come together as a centre of excellence. It is the beginning of a relationship. The Industrial Transformation Research Program, as I said, is a newish one, only been running since 2012. We have industrial centre training centres and research hubs. They're all here together, including the 9 that we announced the week before last. And you can see that the colour has changed from the linkage map. There's less green and more, well, we've gone from red to blue in industry. Industry is represented by blue. So you can see there's actually a very high preponderance of blue and much less of the green. So this scheme has been very successful in driving real industry to work with academia. And it's a very young scheme. I would encourage you all to look at it. It's very accessible. It's $1 million a year of ARC funding leveraged with industry for 5 years, up to 5 years. The research hubs, so the scheme is divided into two roughly. There are research hubs and there are training centres. The research hubs are very focused on looking at a real industry problem. When I go around the countryside and I talk to academics, I say, before you start writing, go and talk to your industry partner and find out what their real issues are. Because we are not going to fund you to play with the last kit that you bought that you're keen to work on. This is actually to work with industry to solve a real industry problem, one that will make a difference to them. And the training centres are about training PhD students and postdocs in the ways of industry at the same time as gaining their higher degrees. So out of their 3-year degree, they will spend a total of 1 year out in industry, working with and on the ground with their industry partners. So when they come out with their postgraduate degree, it won't be 3 or 4 years before they're ready. They are ready. So this has been a very popular scheme, and I would certainly encourage you to look around and see the examples that are happening already and think about whether this is a scheme you might want to find out more about by talking to your local university, represented here by many people. The overall objectives of this scheme are to foster partnerships, the partnerships between business, real business and universities, to support researchers, particularly higher degree by research and postdoctoral fellows, to gain that research so that they will walk out the door looking at a different type of career and valuing that different type of career very much. They don't have to say, I'm going to do a PhD, I'm going to be an academic like my supervisor. I'm going to do a PhD and I'm going to walk out the door, go into industry and make a difference. And I value that, and the people around me value that. The training centres, we encourage training centres to take at least 10 PhD students and 3 postdocs. And when I go around to visit them and I meet the 10 students and postdocs, the palpable excitement of them all working together and having instantly formed their life career network is really energising. And it's just so exciting to see them being so excited. When I say I'm coming to visit, they all come from far and wide for some reason. Even the ones who haven't even been signed up and started somehow managed to be there, and just their level of excitement is so great that they can't stay away. So, you know, the future for these students, I think, is really bright. I think they tell me that they have benefits from this way beyond their friends who are staying in the school or department from which they've come. So there is a maximum of $1 million a year for both of these, the training centres and the hubs, and we've recently changed that to 5 years, up to 5 years for both schemes. We did have training centres for just 3 years, and of course pushing through 10 graduate students in 3 years was a little unrealistic. So we've fixed that. So as I've already mentioned, the research hubs are collaborative R&D projects. They are designed to solve real issues. Any program that comes to the panel to look at that, not fixated on what the industry issue is and how they're going to work towards solving it, doesn't go much further. We do expect industry to show a level of commitment, so it is a scheme that we expect to be leveraged. That said, we also understand that there's a lot of small companies out there that don't have any cash. So if you read the fine print, there's lots of ways of getting involved without having to come up with a lot of cash, or any cash. So this just reiterates that the hubs also are $1 million a year for up to 5 years, and I think, Fiona, your hub is 4 years. Not because she asked for 5, we only gave her 4, but she only asked for 4. I'm sure she'll be back in 4 years' time for the rest. These are just some snapshots, I guess, of some of the launches of these research hubs and centres that we've done, and you can get a feeling of the excitement and the smiles of people being involved, and the wide variety of areas that we have funded research in under this scheme. See on the top right, there's a Prawn Initiative which runs out of James Cook University way up north. The one on the top left, that's dairy, so I think that's a stack of cheeses looking like a big wedding cake there. with everybody looking like they're going to try and get that knife through it. Fruit fly, we've just funded one of our most recent ones in that area. And it's one of my favourites on the bottom right. This is out at Wagga at Charles Sturt University. This is Grains Centre, and you can see the students there. They all had special shirts made up for the launch, and they were all just so excited. They all wanted to have selfies with me, and I couldn't figure out why, but that's what they wanted. I just went with it. But it was a fabulous day. I mean, I drove 3 hours out to Charles Sturt, which is actually a beautiful drive, but it was about 50 degrees out there. But the level of excitement from the students and the postdocs just made it all worthwhile. And in fact, the director was tremendously excited and has since become a full professor, so it's done well for him as well. So I'm not sure that there's opportunity at this point for questions, but maybe later.
I think we'll questions back to Rachel.
Okay, thank you.